Hello guys, and welcome to Accurate Tips. Welcome to another video. This video I'm doing is based on the questions and requests I received in my DM on WhatsApp and Telegram from some of you, looking to understand how to identify fair value gaps, or in other words, inefficiencies or imbalance is the same thing, and then also how you can trade them. Okay, so I'm going to explain what fair value gaps are, though I've done it in the previous classes, but I'll be doing this type of videos this January before the main classes start. I'll be doing this type of videos based on the questions and messages I've been receiving from you guys to explain most of these things. Okay, so now we are going to dive into today's lesson, and then we'll look at what fair value gaps are, or in other words, fair value gap, FVGs. Okay, is this the full name is fair value gaps. Okay, or imbalances, which are represented with IMB. Okay, they are also known as what? Inefficiencies. Okay, I and E, inefficiencies. Okay, now let me make it F so that you understand better. So inefficiencies, imbalances, FVGs is the same thing. Okay, it's talking about the same thing. So now, what are FVGs or what are imbalances? Okay, before I explain what imbalances are, let me talk about this. Now, as I've always said in previous lessons, okay, I told you guys that when we take the Forex market is a market that always look for what we call inefficiencies or levels, areas that there is orders left, which it can go and not fill. Okay, so unfilled orders are left at various points in the market or strategic points in the market by traders or the bank, the big institutions, the hedge funds, and co. And then it allows you, the individual who is trading, who have the ideas of how the banks and the big institutions move in the market, to identify these points, okay, and then trade from there. Now, those elapses or those unfilled or orders are kind of inefficiencies in the system or imbalances in the system, or let me say gaps in the system. So these gaps create what we call liquidity. So fair value gaps are internal liquidities in the market. Okay, so we have two types of liquidity that when I come to liquidity to teach on liquidity, I will explain. We have the internal liquidity and the external liquidity, of which fair value gaps fall under the internal liquidity. Okay, so market moves from internal liquidity to external liquidity. All right, so market always comes back to fill all inefficiencies or all imbalances or all fair value gaps before continuing with whatever it wants to do. All right, so now, what actually are fair value gaps? So fair value gaps are gaps left unfilled between three successive candles. So if we take, let's say for instance, here, we take this first black candle, we take the second large candle, I will take the third black candle. If you see between the wick of the first black candle and the wick of the upper wick, so the lower wick of the first black candle and the upper wick of the third black candle here, okay, there is a gap between them. That gap that is between them is what we refer to as the fair value gap, okay, or an imbalance. So the space between the lower wick and of the first candle and the upper wick of the third candle is what we refer to as imbalances. Now, let's say, for instance, let me get an example for this one. When there is no gap between the first candle and the third candle, then we refer to that move as efficiency or balanced move. That means there is no gap, there is no fair value gap, or there is no imbalance there. It means that portion of the market has been balanced out. Hence, when price gets there, price will move away from there without any hindrances. But when price gets to areas of imbalance, we see at least some level of reaction before market either continues through the gap or reverses from the point where the gap is located. Right. So for instance, this entire area here, okay, like this is the fair value gap. All right. Now, if you see, I minimized it to this extent because this first candle, okay, is the major candle here. And this one to the black candle are all within this candle, this first black candle here. Okay, it swallowed what this first white candle and this last black candle here before this sharp move down. Now, when it happens like that, instead of taking from the black candle here, you rather take from the main candle. Okay, so that is why I marked from here. Okay, now the reason why I took this white candle instead of this last one is because this last black candle is because this white one validated this pullback and then filled some amount of the gap that was left between this and this third candle here. All right. Therefore, when it happens like that, I only need to fill the remaining imbalance, which is the distance between this low and this high here. This is why I only minimized I drew my imbalance between this and this. And this is on H4 on gold. So it being my higher time frame level, key level. Now, as you can see, as I said, these are areas price always give some form of what reaction. So as you can see, price push back into that area, finally filling the remaining gap, and we can see a rejection and price reacting to that level. It doesn't mean that price will totally reverse from there. Okay, price can as well break through this and still go to the previous internal high there, because the reason I say internal high, because this high is between the major high and the major low. So anything happening between this major high and this major low is just internal structures that are being created there. So until this low or this main high is taken, anything we are trading here is based on internal structure. Okay, so it means short-term trades, that is what you need to take between the major high, and then the major low. But that is not what we are learning today. Now, if we take here again, All right, take care again. Then we are going to be looking at this move, this last black candle, which has been not the high of it has been taken by this guy, thereby confirming it as a valid pullback per what I taught you guys in the last year lessons. Okay, valid pullback. Then we are going to take the gap between this white candle that take the high of this, making it a valid pullback. Since this white candle, the last white candle is within the shadows of the first white candle, means we are going to be taking that, the large move, and then the third black candle. The gap between this and this is another imbalance that we will mark. Now, you can have thousands and thousands of imbalances. It doesn't mean every imbalance area is tradable. Okay, there is always the factor for you to filter out the best zones. All right. And if you remember during our teachings, I gave you guys the ability to filter out, or the concept of filtering out stronger zones and weaker zones using the decisional OBs and the extreme OB. So with the fair value gaps, we have the decisional fair value gap and the extreme fair value gap, where the decisional fair value gap is the one close to price, and the extreme is the one further away from what of price, of which the extremes are always high probability or A plus, and then the decisional are always what B plus, and will only be traded if we have liquidity taken out there. All right. So now we have another fair value gap. If you see here, let's see, we have the first candle, the second candle, and the third candle. Let's see, yeah, there is a little gap there between the three of them. So it means that gap between this and this needs to be what? To be filled. Needs to be what? Filled. Okay. It needs to be what? To be filled. And we can see price taps into that small fair value gap, which some people will not see and will ignore. But that, as I said, doesn't mean that, because there are other things I'll teach you later, not in this video, but later on. I think it's part of the new lessons we'll be starting very soon. That will tell you whether you should trade around that area or you should ignore the area and then just move on. So depending on what you see or what intuition you have, that is what is going to tell you whether you should trade within that zone or not. All right. Okay. So that's another fair value gap. So we can see here between this, that, and that also we have a little fair value gap here again, which was immediately what filled up by this pullback into this zone. All right. So basically, fair value gaps are just gaps between the three successive candles, the first candle and the last candle in a row. All right. When there is gap, then there is an imbalance. But then, for instance, when we come here, look at this. First candle, second candle, third candle. You can see that between the wicks of this first candle, the small black candle, and the third candle, there is no gap. They balance out each other. So with this type, we call it what? Efficiency. So when price gets there, price will just go. So if you see, all the moves here were efficient, except for this area here. Okay, except for this area here, like this. All right. Except for that area, price filled it, reacted before pushing down. Okay, as I said, it's not every imbalance or fair value gap that you need to trade. So this move was the news that occurred, and that was on Friday, right? Yeah. Okay. And it took out liquidity here and then push up. So basically, that is how you locate your fair value gap. Now, if I want to trade, for instance, this fair value gap, what am I going to do? So for instance, this H4. If I look for the fair value gap on the H4, this is the next thing I'm looking for. Now, the candle that pushed into the fair value gap, how did the candle close? Did the candle close with a full huge body like this with small amount of the wick? Okay, that means the wick left is not what big, it's just small. We have more bodies than the wick. Okay, so something like this type of black candle, this something full like this, or this big one here. Now, if a big candle taps into this zone, all right, on H4, then I'm going to switch to 5 minutes. Listen to this. I'm going to switch to what? 5 minutes. All right. Sorry about that. Somebody was calling me. So sorry about that. So as I was saying, okay, you move to what? To 5 minutes. That is where we are going to look for our entry. All right. So if you look for our entry on 5 minutes, yeah. Just a minute, please. Okay, so this is where we tap into the zone. Now, this one, the candle that tap into it didn't tap into it with huge body, tap into it with reject and close as a rejection. So for instance, if back then I'll still use it to do the example. So when we come to 5 minutes, one, the first thing I want to see is I want to see price pushing through a previous high like this. All right. Okay. So I want to see a graph of that candle. All right. Then the candle that pushed through that high, like this white candle that pushed through this high, I want it to close with a lot of body as it has done here. Now, as it went up this way and pushed down, all right, so as price closes below this level, so finally price closes a body, which is this black candle, below the candle that took the high away, all right. Then once I see that, I'll now start making what? Preparation to make an entry. Now, all I do is I always take from, if the candle is big like this, I take my entry from the body. After it closes like this, I'm going to make entry from here once market reverses to that area. So as you can see, price reversed back here. So we can take our entry from that area. So like this, take my entry. Yeah. And my stop loss will be what? Will be a little, you have to take into consideration the spread of your broker. So mostly I add extra 3 pips or sometimes 5 pips, depending on the instrument I'm trading. With gold, I add about 5 points to my SL, and my CP1 is always 50% of the range, okay, or 1:2. All right. When I'm trading fair value gaps, mostly my TP1 is always 1:2. So if I'm using that standard, then my first TP will be here. All right. Okay. And then my full TP will be the opposite end of the range. All right. Now, this is how I trade fair value gaps. especially when I see them, when I see a huge candle pushing into the fair value gap. All right. Now, with this particular one, most people will lose the trade depending on the broker they are using, and some will not lose it depending on the spread of their broker. Okay. When you lose it, don't worry, because as I said, this guy closed without a week. So if, for instance, I'm trading this, I'm not going to trade this setup. I'll ignore it and wait for another setup to form. Okay. So I saw this, all right. I saw price tap into the imbalance, but I didn't take the trade because of what I just explained right now. Okay. It doesn't mean I've wasted the opportunity or whatsoever. As you see, price never even hit the TP1. Price is still ranging and anything can happen. All right. I always want high probability setups to trade. That is all that I want. All right. So yeah, basically this is a quick video on how you can locate high probability FVGs and also trade them. If you like the video, subscribe the channel and turn on the bell notification icons. I'll be bringing you more of these videos and even more new topics as we move on and get into the lessons of the year 2025. And I promise you that this time around, as I said in the previous video, I'm going to be with you guys with analysis and all those stuffs always on, and trade reviews always on the channel. So yeah, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Take care. I'm out.